Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and today we are going to be talking about my bronzer and contour collection. And for this, I definitely need to share a couple of things with you, but the problem is that my bronzer collection kind of lives in like 3 different places. So over here in the back of my drawer, I have my main collection of bronzers. Then this one is so big that I don't know where it needs to go, so it's kind of living right here right now because that's my newest purchase. So I was trying to find a space where it could go. Then over here in the left hand corner right here where my fingers are, I've got the Overflow bronzers, and then all the way over here where I keep my face palettes, I also have some like contour kind of palettes, which I also wanted to show you in this video. And then over here we have my cream products, and I also have some bronzing products in there. So bear with me as we are going through all of these bronzers in my bronzer collection. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so I think it's best to start with creams first. So let me take these highlighter products off the top of it. And let me see what I have here in terms of bronzer. I've got 3 bronzing products in here. They are all liquids and they are all by Catrice. For some reason, I really like Catrice cream bronzers. So let me start with this product right here. This is the, by now I think discontinued, Triangle Artist Contour Stick. And this is in the shade 02 Ashy Brown, 020, I'm sorry. And this is the only cream contour I ever purchased because this is a perfect shade when it comes to my skin tone and what I need for a cream contour. So there you have that swatch right there. And then another cream bronzer I have is the Bouncy Bronzer Caribbean Vibes by Catrice. This is part of the limited edition collection that they did. It has a shade, it's called 010 Aruba Vibes. And this is a mousse, like jelly. Let me show you this real quickly. So it's like a jelly kind of product. It's very strange. And this swatches as intensely as an eyeshadow. So there you have that bronzer. It swatches like an eyeshadow or like a highlighter. Like it is that intense. So it's just, it's a very, very shiny product, and I just found that when I would put this on with a stipple brush, it's not this intense, and it gives a very nice natural summertime glow to the skin. So that's why I still have that one. And this last one I still had to shake up. These are the Catrice Sheer Serum Bronzer Drops in the shade Instanned Complexion. And this was from a limited edition called the Soleil d'été, which was out a few years ago. I'm not sure if this still works with the dropper. It probably doesn't. With Catrice products like this, the dropper just eventually just stops working. And this is quite yellow toned. So this is quite an intense yellow tone bronzer, and I definitely can't wear this year round. But in the summertime, this makes for a very pretty all over bronzy shade. It is a little orange for me, but they did another one a couple of years later that was a far more orange, far more red. This has like a goldeny yellowy undertone, which is why it works. It's just several shades too dark for me for like the winter time, but it does sheer out quite nicely. It just sticks down very quickly, so I need to take this off my hand straight away. All right, so these are all of the face products I have that are more like palettes that have bronzers in them. I still have a few other ones I haven't shown you, but those I want to show you when I do my blush collection, because they are like the all-rounder, like blush, bronzer, and highlight. And today we're just focusing on contour shades, because that's pretty much what I have going on in this little selection that I'm holding in my hands right here. My favorite all-time contour powder, like actual contour powder, that's not a bronzer, that I use to contour is the Prime and Fine powder by Catrice. This was discontinued such a long time ago, but this is really, really lovely. It still works well. So there you have the swatch. It's a very sheer powder, which is why it works on my fair skin. And in this compact, I always ignore the highlighter. I just never used it. I always just went with that bronzer shade in here for sure. This I didn't really use to contour so much. Let me brighten you a little bit so you can see the product a bit better. So this product right here is the W7 Hollywood Bronze and Glow. And this I didn't really use to contour. Again, like with the Catrice, I pretty much ignored the highlighter in here. And as you can see, I kind of went to town on this bronzer, which is why I'm having such a hard time getting rid of this product because I haven't used it in a while. But I just remember really liking this bronzer so much back in the day. This is just a really nice one. And of course, this dupes the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow. So there you have that W7 bronzer. Do you see it's a little bit more warm toned than the Catrice one? The Catrice one is definitely matte, whereas this one has a bit of sheen to it. And this one is a little bit more cool toned. This is a bit more orange. And then we have the Wet n Wild contouring palette in Dulce the Leche. I am currently not keeping this with my face palettes. I'm keeping this in my Shop My Stash drawer, awaiting the moment that I use up my creamy eyeshadow by The Body Shop. So I have a cream colored eyeshadow by The Body Shop that I've been using for years, and I'm getting through the last one right now. But in here we do get a contour powder, which is nice. It's just not something I reach for a whole lot because this is a little too warm toned for my liking. So I didn't reach for this a whole lot. It's just a little warm tone for what I would go for a contour for sure. So I'm kind of keeping this one around for that creamy shade so that I can use this up as eyeshadow, because I think this comes with a ton of product and I will not have to use like a single eyeshadow for a while. And last but not least, the Shade and Light Contour Palette by KVD Beauty or Kat Von D. I think you can tell which ones I've actually used, which is these three shades. The other shades in here I don't use. This is a great contour for me. This is a great bronzer for me. I was using this to set the under eye, and it worked well. So let me just swatch these two shades for you. So as you can see, a more cool toned one for contour and a more warm toned one for bronzer. I used this a lot back when contouring was all the rage. Right now I don't really contour anymore, but I like having a high-end and like a drugstore option for contour in case it ever comes back in vogue. And as long as these products still work well, they don't take up a lot of space in my makeup collection, so that's why I still have this. And now I want to take you into this corner before we come to the main event. I keep sort of like overflow bronzers in here because this cubby in the back is just a little small for the amount of bronzers I currently have. I just have no other way to store them, so I've got some other things over here. There is the Max Factor Cream Bronzer. It's a baked powder, so it's not a cream bronzer at all, in the shade Light Gold. And Light Gold was actually really pretty. I was very surprised. I did feel that this oxidized a little bit on me, so it perhaps wasn't the best. And this is quite fair. Now I've got some sun coming in, so now you can see the glowy bronzers extra well. But do you see that this has a bit of a yellowy undertone? And you will see in a minute, I love a good yellow undertone in a bronzer. That's like my favorite thing. So yeah, this one worked really well on me in the end. I just felt that I had to be careful how much I put on, because if I put on too much, then it looked a little crazy, I found. Also in this area of the collection is this very shiny number that looks really dirty, but it's by number 7. It's in the shade Golden Sand. A lot of people had this in the shade Maple, but for me that didn't really work. It was a bit too dark, so this worked better. And this is another really nice fair bronzer. So yeah, next year when I do a makeup declutter, I definitely need to like declutter bronzers. This is really pretty. It's really light. It's got a bit of a sheen. But in the wintertime, this works for me perfectly, that number 7 one. I don't think it barely shows up on my skin. But that's what I like. In the winter, I'm just super duper pale. And I always struggled finding good bronzers, which is why I now have so many. Because I really went through a phase where I was just trying bronzers left and right. But yeah, that's sort of what happened. I found that bronzers need to be pretty fair for them to work for me. And brands have finally started to do that. Also in here is the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. And you will have seen me use this in last Sunday's video or last week's video where I did a full face of Too Faced. And as you can see, now you can see pretty well, but this has a dent. Ooh. This is my favorite bronzer for contouring. Even though it's like a warmer powder, I feel that this works really well as a contour, so I kind of have the Catrice one as a drugstore option, this one as a high-end option, and I have the the KVD palette for like a more of an option, you can say, and that's pretty much all I have in terms of contour. So yeah, this dent is here because of contouring. I didn't use this as a bronzer because as a bronzer, this is very muddy on me and it looks very patchy. I feel like I have to build these up a little bit for them to show up for you. But there we have the Too Faced one. It's just a very nice, finely milled powder. I always felt like this kind of grabbed onto patches of my skin and then it looked darker in some areas than in others, which is why it worked out for contouring for some reason, but not as an all-over bronzer. The next bronzer is by Hourglass, and this is not a bronzer, it's a face powder. This is one of their ambient lighting powders in Radiant Light, and this is one I've had for a while, and I actually pulled out this OG combo, because this is my combo, to use it together over the summertime, and I remember just falling all over in love with this again, especially this one. It may not be a bronzer shade, but this is the deepest version, I think, of the Hourglass powder, and that works as a bronzer on me. So that's another tip. If you're very fair, find a face powder that works for you, that's deeper, that can also work as a bronzer. And there we have the Hourglass one. It has a very strong, like, goldeny undertone to it, which is why it works as a bronzer. It's got some golden reflect too. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's right here. And then also in this section is my Urban Decay Beach Bronzer in the shade Sun Kissed. This is really pretty. I decluttered this originally. This is actually what happened to a few of my bronzers. I originally wanted to like put this in my declutter pile, but then I was going to use this in my full face of Urban Decay video that I did over the summertime, and I fell back in love with it. This is why I don't do swatches when I do declutters, because I just want to keep everything. So that's why I'm not sure what I want to do with this. So there we have the Urban Decay one. It is a little bit more reddish toned, and I don't have too many like reddish toned bronzers, so in the summertime this gives a very nice sun-kissed look. So that's why I'm still very much umming and ahhing. Do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? I'm undecided. Righty, and then we're moving into some stuff that is lying on top and that is sitting here in the back. And these are all like new-ish things. There are some other new things in the actual bronzer bit here. It's like two little sections like this that we still have to go. So we still have plenty left. Yeah, these are newer things that I'm currently either trying or that I did just try. That's why they're on top. So these were the Sungasm Illuminating Bronzing Pebbles by Catrice. This was part of a limited edition that they released over the summertime. Catrice does a bronzer collection every single summer, and I think I've bought all of them in the past 5 years. I told myself I wasn't going to get this, but then I saw it at my drugstore and I was like, ooh, that's nice. So these are what the pebbles look like. So these are just like little triangles, and this works better in my opinion than like little circles, because those always get stuck on my brush. But these are quite nice. I do have to say that I like the other bronzer that was in this collection a lot more than these pebbles. I'm gonna put it right here, and you can see it's like a yellowy undertone, which is why I like it, and then it has that sparkle running through it, which is really nice. Then a bronzer that is currently in my Shop My Stash, and this is the Hello Good Stuff Matte and Glow Bronzer by Essence. Finally, Essence is doing a bronzer that works with my complexion. I have one in my Makeup Memories box, but that one's super old. But that was like the only bronzer that Essence had ever done that actually worked on my complexion, because every Essence bronzer I ever tried, like they redo them every year or two, they do a new bronzer line in their, like, what's it called? Whatever, they have a particular name in the Essence line, but they were always way too orange, and people were saying, oh, I love this Essence bronzer, and I was like, I don't. But this one works, because this is in the shade Cocoa Cool. There is another shade in this that's a little bit deeper. The only problem with Essence and Catrice is, of course, that their shade range is a bit shoddy. The swatch is right here. I don't think you can see very well. But this has been my bronzer of choice. If you put the two shades together, it's just a really nice subtle glow, which I love. Then I did a full face of L'Oreal back in September, and for that purpose I bought the Back to Bronze Universal Bronzing Powder. Can someone please tell L'Oreal that bronzing powders are not universal, because this shade is way too dark for me, and if you have a very deep skin tone, this is going to of course be way too light for you. So unless you have like a medium complexion, this is not gonna work. But yeah, that's that swatch right there. Yeah, I think I actually accidentally put it over the Essence one. Oh well. It was okay. I could make it work, but it's not my favorite for sure. This is on the decluttering pile for sure. And then a bronzer that is super new to me is the Nabla Skin Bronzing Powder in Ombre. I only just got this a few weeks ago and I put it in my Shop My Stash straight away because I love that highlighter formula so much that I thought I could also try the bronzer. And this is the lightest shade that they do. Look at that. I really like that. I really like the look of that, but I was first trying the Essence one out, and now I can go back to this one. And next up is this massive bronzer that I haven't tried yet. I only bought it the other day. I kind of bought it because I knew I was going to do this video, but this was a bronzer I still had on my wish list, and that's why I decided to get it. This is the Charlotte Tilbury, what's this called? Airbrush Bronzer, and I got mine in the shade Fair, and this is so light that I think this is going to be perfect for me. Oh, the sun is back out. So this is going to be perfect for me in the winter time, I'm pretty sure. So again, I need to try this out, but I was like, I can at least show this to you in my bronzer collection for sure. This is quite possibly like the number 7 one that you can barely see on my skin because it's that fair. But what we still have left are my favorite bronzers and like things that I just really, really enjoy. So that's what we're getting into next. So I told you that Catrice had another bronzer in their Sungasm line, and this is their luminizing bronzer in the shade Bronzed Euphoria. And I remember picking this out of the entire collection because it seemed to be the lightest. But the undertones were a bit difficult to tell without swatching them in store. And I couldn't swatch them in store because of the whole virus thing. There are no testers anymore. But this ended up being a really, really pretty bronzer. I also wore this all over my face. And it's got like a pinky undertone to it. And still it has that glow. So if you can still find this and you're going between these two, I would recommend the compact over the pebbles. Then another drugstore favorite is the Maybelline City Bronzer. So this is, again, I think this was released like a year, 2 years ago. And I remember trying this and going like, this is how you do a good cool tone bronzer, because this is in the shade, well, it's called Medium Warm 250, but this is really not that warm. And it's got a more yellow undertone. So I really, really loved it for that. And this, I wasn't sure which shade to get when these were released, but I was able to find these in store when I was on a trip to London, and I was like, if it shears out, and as you can see, it's just not a very pigmented bronzer at all, so this works really well on my complexion, and it was like my instant favorite. And then we have ColourPop, and this is their Coconut Beach Bronzer. This is a pressed powder bronzer, and I tried this a few months ago. I bought this because I was going to do a full face of ColourPop, and as you can see, I kind of went to town on this one. It is a nice enough powder, but as you will also see once we get to my blush collection and the blushes I have by ColourPop, it's just not my favorite formula. So while I like the shade of this, I just don't think this formula is like the best bronzer formula I've ever tried. So this is one where I'm like, yeah, I like the shade, but I could do without this one. And then one that I was gonna declutter because I was like, I never use this, and then this summer I brought it back out. So now I'm like, oh, I'm happy that I didn't declutter this, because in terms of like overall bronzer, I preferred this over the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil. This is their Sweethearts Bronzer in the shade Sweet Tea. It's a duo bronzer, so you've got a darker shade and a lighter shade. This is a little bit too deep for me for like every day. And in my recent Too Faced, full face of Too Faced, I used the light shade on the left the most. But this is just so stunning in the summertime. If I want to go for a little bit more oomph that the Radiant Light Ambient Lighting Powder by Hourglass doesn't give me, then this works really well. And another favorite. This is Becca's Sunlit Bronzer in Bali Sands. Everybody's raving about Capri Coast, but that was too dark for me, so I went with the lightest shade. This had a wavy pattern. I've worn down the wavy pattern, okay? It comes with 7 grams of product. This is one that I can see myself using up at some point in the future. This is what it looks like if we swatch it. And this is one of the reasons why the ColourPop one is just on the chopping block, because this is just such a finely milled bronzer. This just works so well on my skin. And this one's going to be a bit controversial because I really like my Fenty Beauty bronzer. I know there's like this toss-up between a few brands, and if you like brand A, you don't like this one, and if you like this one, you don't like the other brand. Can't remember what it was. I think it was Too Faced. And I happen to be the person who prefers the Fenty Beauty powder bronzer over their powder highlighter for sure. Again, that FB has been worn down completely. I have this, of course. Oh, it's got a bit of hard pan over here in the corner, it seems. Yeah. That's strange. Like, most of it is still fine, but over here in the corner, I'm not sure if you can see that. I can scrape that off, but it's in the sun, which is the lightest one. Let me swatch that over here. Yeah, so all of these bronzers probably look the same on camera. It's not like with highlight where it's like, pow, look, it's different. But yeah, this is again a little bit more yellow toned, which is why I like it. And then another favorite that sadly you can no longer buy, which is why I would be very sort of reluctant to declutter this. This is the Solar Powder Bronzer by Soap & Glory. And I remember Lily Pebbles raving about this back in the day. And I'm sure, again, if you can see this, but over here, this, especially this lighter side, has a huge dent. Again, this darker side has a bit of heart pan over here. But this is just such a lovely bronzer, and one of the oldest bronzers in my collection for sure. And I love wearing this in the springtime, which probably seems like a very random thing, but as you can see, it's got a little bit of glow. It's got that sort of, again, yellowy undertone to it. I just look for yellow undertones because it just looks a lot better on you if you have a fair / cool to neutral undertone. Yellow tone bronzers is where it's at, people. And then we have the Catrice Clean ID Mineral Bronzer in light medium, 010. So this is recyclable packaging and all that. And this was the first bronzer that Catrice ever did, powder form, that I felt worked really well on me. This also has a yellow undertone. Oh, and this is how much percent? It's 84% natural ingredients, and it's vegan. So, yay for Catrice. I love it when drugstore brands do these kind of things. So, this bronzer, it's a little bit too dark for me in the winter time, but in the summertime, this worked really well. So this is Benefit's Hoola Light, which is living in the back. And I put this in my Shop My Stash last month, and I ended up not wearing it as much as I thought I was going to be. This is, again, quite light and fair and yellow toned. So a couple of my favorite things, and I got this because original Hoola is just way too dark for me. I'm not sure if you can even see this on my skin. But this is the Benefit Hoola Light, and it's definitely a really good one for me as well. I love also, this is also a great multitasker because it is a matte. I can use this as a crease shade. I can just use it all over my face, a bit like the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil. I feel that this one is neutral enough that you could even contour with it. And then I have an actual Hourglass bronzer, and this is Nude Bronze Light. Hear me out. I love this bronzer. It's really pretty, but I end up using Radiant Light a lot more than I do this. This is nice. This is a little bit more of a pinky tone, if I remember correctly. But this is, again, also very fair, very light. It works really well. It has that really lovely Hourglass powder formula, but I actually I always go between this one and the Radiant Light one. And I think I actually prefer the Radiant Light one because it gives me something a lot more unique than this does. I feel I have drugstore bronzers that do this as well. Another OG, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I have mine in the shade Bronzer because I had heard that the shades were quite similar. I think actually the clasp may be broken. The scent, I don't really like scented makeup, but this scent doesn't really bother me. And as you can see, that powderness starting to wear down, so you know I love this one. So yeah, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer is one of my all-time favorites at the drugstore. And this I can just, you know, this is one of those bronzers that I can use. Oops, I'm knocking the camera over. This is one of those bronzers that I can use year-round. Like, this always works for me. Another favorite, especially in the wintertime, is the Makeup Forever Pro Bronze Fusion in, what's the shade called? I believe it was 20M. The name has rubbed off. But this one, this is how I found out that yellow tone bronzers work really well on me. And this is a gel to powder formula, and it's starting to look really, really gross. I'm not sure if it still swatches really well. It seems to have a bit of hard pan. But this I love, because even though this looks quite intense, but then when you put it on, like, and this is quite yellow toned, but look at that. This is another one where I'm like, yeah, in the end, this is one that I think I can use up at some point in time. However, this pan also just doesn't look like it's going to be used up anytime soon. There's no dent in here. It just seems to be shrinking a little bit from the sides. So I think this may actually be drying out. And then we have Makeup Revolution's Baked Bronzer. This is the Bronzer Reloaded in Holiday Romance. And this was a bit strange because they redid this whole line. And then I couldn't find the bronzer, or at least the lightest shade of this bronzer. They had put this with the highlighters. This is not a highlighter, at least not on me. So they kind of misplaced it on the website, which is why I couldn't find it at first. And this is such a nice baked formula. And I do really like this one. Again, it's super fair. So it's really, really perfect for like the dead of winter when I'm like Snow White. And then, you know, I love the balm for blush, but I also love them for bronzer. I think that if I were to hit pan on a bronzer first, it would be my Take Home the Balm bronzer by The Balm. This is in the shade Oliver. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's got this really big dent. I have found, though, that these are now very difficult to find. So they seem to be discontinuing these. And their new Bronzilla bronzer only comes in one shade, so that's not going to work for me. Also, Bahama Mama by The Balm is not going to work for me. So this is another, say it with me, yellow tone bronzer. Yay! And this, it's got a bit of warmth. You can barely see this. This is the problem if you have fair skin. These products just don't show up. Because it just kind of, you know, the idea of these products is that they blend away into your skin, and then it's again, this is one of those all-rounders. So the Maybelline City Bronzer, this one, and what was the other one that I said that of? I can't remember. Oh, the Butter Bronzer by Physicians Formula. Those are like my three I can use year-round kind of bronzers. And then last but not least, I have the Balm Desert Bronzer / Blush. And I keep this one with my bronzers because it is more of a pink tone bronzer for me. And I do like this as well, but I just prefer yellow to undertones. I just do. But this, as you can see, it's a little deeper, a little bit more warm toned than the other one from the Balm. So now you know what these look like swatched together. So this is a little bit, wow, it looks very red next to this one. So this is a lot warmer. Meaning I can wear it in like the spring, summertime, but I can't really wear it year-round, whereas Oliver I can. So there you have it. Those are all of my bronzers. I need to go take some pictures so I have a thumbnail for this video of all of these lovely products, and I hope you now have an idea of all the bronzers that I have in my collection. This is definitely a part of my collection that expanded a lot over the past couple of years. For the reason I've stated before, I used to struggle finding good bronzers, and I feel that makeup brands have just gotten better at doing bronzers for more than one skin tone. Very often, bronzers only came in like 1 or 2 shades, and now we at least get like 5 or 6, and very often they are also light enough for me to wear. I remember struggling so terribly with all of these super orange bronzers. Yes, NARS Laguna, I'm talking about you. Everybody was saying how great that was. It was just too dark for me. Too dark. I could not make it work, and I didn't know why it didn't look good until I started trying some of the stuff I now have. And I realized, oh, I need something that has yellow undertones, and that's fair enough for it to work for me. So yeah, my bronzer collection has definitely grown, so I definitely need to either rearrange my makeup collection a little bit that I have a bit more space for bronzers, or I just need to cull them in a good declutter sometime in 2021. But yeah, I've really fallen in love with a lot of these bronzers, so some of them I'll get rid of, but others I don't know yet. So I'm not ready to go through my entire collection and declutter it yet. Not until, I don't know, maybe March, April next year. I tend to leave just over a year between declutters, because then that's when I feel ready to do it, you could say. So I definitely want to give everything a fair shot before I do that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 3 new videos a week over on this channel. So hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!